Hello my spooky people! It's been a minute. Sorry about that. I ended up needing to take the entire month of December off just for some mental health reasons. So for this video, I'm going to be making my first cosplay in about 9 years. I am going to be cosplaying Lilith from the Owl House. I really like the cartoon. I love the characters. I think it's such an endearing story and it's just a fun time and a fun watch, and I swear when I first saw Lilith walk onto screen, I want that. So I'm making that. Mostly I wanted that skirt because it just looked like a really nice shape, and I also kind of like this shirt as well that she wears. In this video I'm just going to be making the base dress and getting that looking as good and as close to the original Lilith design as possible. In part 2 I'll make her props and style a wig for the first time in 9 years. Yeah, so I'm gonna stop rambling. Like all of my projects, we're starting with mock-ups, so let's go do that. For the design of this, at first I wanted to take the silhouette of the original very simple cartoon design and just add detail everywhere. The more I sat at my drawing tablet and just kept trying to add detail to things, the more I just didn't like it and it stopped reading as Lilith. So this is where I eventually landed. I'm going to put most of my details into her jewels, some lace, and a corset belt thing. For the first video, I'll be focusing on the blouse and the skirt. For part 2, I'll have the corset belt thing, her staff, the jewel, and I'll also style a wig. To start, I'm going to use the pattern for my galaxy dress for the skirt, and I have a pattern that I think I can use for the blouse. So this is the dress. The fit hasn't really changed since I made it. There's only a few things that I really want to change because of just what this is doing right now versus what I want the cosplay to look like. I'm going to change the top seam of the skirt because it's just right there. I'm gonna raise it up, make it kind of level on my rib cage. Probably add some volume, and it needs to be lengthened. I want it to be on the floor before I even add the ruffles. So I'm going to make those first adjustments and then make my first mock-up, and we'll see where we are then. Alright, official skirt mock-up. Number 1, mostly I'm pretty happy with it. Biggest issue is this is not long enough. It needs to be closer down here. This up here, it's wanting to roll down so it's hard to see, but it does kind of go into a peak right here, which is what the dress is designed for. But for this cosplay, I'm gonna need this to be a little bit straighter around my rib cage right here. So I'm gonna mess with this top line and I'm gonna try and add like a little bit more volume onto this. So this is mock-up number 1 officially. On to the next. Skirt mock-up number 2. And yeah, I like it. It fits, it's straight, the zipper is a lot longer and it works. Not much else to say, but I'm good to go for the official skirt. Now I'm going to work on mock-ups for the shirt. So let's do that. Mock-up number 1. This is the base of the pattern that I'm choosing to use at this point. I don't really know what kind of fabric I'm going to be using for the actual shirt. I'm hoping I'll have some stretch fabric, but right now I'm working under the assumption that I'm not going to, because that's a hard fabric for me to thrift and find in the right colors. So for now, this is what I am working with. The sleeves are all wrong. It is all kinds of baggy. So I'm just gonna work on that and try and adjust a few things and try and get this closer for the next mock-up. On to number 2. Alright, mock-up number 2. Getting closer. This is still baggy. These still kind of suck. This is great. That's it. That's it. I didn't bother with collar because that was annoying the first time and I didn't want to do it again. Baggy, still more potato sack shaped. Yeah, sleeves are getting better. Sleeves are a lot less baggy. I feel like they could be tighter though. So I'm gonna work more on those. On to mock-up number 3. Mock-up number 3, I found some stretch fabric. So I'm going to be able to use stretch fabric for my final garment, which means I'm able to do mock-ups in stretch fabric. And somehow I became more potato sack-like. Not sure how that happened. This is great right here, not right here. What happened here? My shoulders are now dropped. And it is shapeless. So I'm going to work on all of that. And on to mock-up number 4. Alright, mock-up number 4. we finally have some kind of a shape and I'm not swimming in it completely. Fits around the bust a lot better. I think I could go in on the hips just a little bit more still. My shoulders are a little bit less dropped, but I still need to adjust these. My sleeves are okay. I think I need to get rid of a little bit of this still, but it's fitting perfectly around the wrist, so I'm gonna keep that. Finally getting close. I think I've only got one more mock-up left, so on to mock-up number 5. All right, mock-up number 5, and I think we got it. This looks good to me. It fits comfortably loose around my hips and waist. It fits wonderfully on my bust. My shoulders look great. They're in the right spot. They're not too dropped for me. My forearms are nice and tight the way they should be. Mock-up number 5, and I think we finally got it. It feels like the mock-up purgatory is finally over and I can finally make my first cosplay in 9 years. I'm so excited to finally get making this thing. These mock-ups took way too long and I just felt like I was never gonna get done with them, but I like this shape. I think it fits. I think it looks good. Let's go make a cosplay. While I was working hard on those mock-ups, my sewing machine lost power in the motor. So for the time being, and until I can replace it, I'll be working on my older machine. Not much is different about this one, honestly, but it is a straight stitch only machine. I wanted to thrift the base of this cosplay, and I managed to find a curtain that I like the weight for the skirt, but I wasn't able to find anything for the blouse, so unfortunately I did have to buy a dark gray stretch fabric. I almost didn't have enough yardage with the curtain for the skirt. My pattern was almost too wide. I had to seam rip all of the edges of the curtain to get just barely enough. I am also using some scraps from my jumpsuit to make a facing for the skirt, which I'm hoping will help it lay smoothly on top. Once I have it all cut out, I'll make the blouse first and then the skirt later. And of course I'll be using French seams for as much of both as I can. The blouse is pretty simple, so I'm starting with my side and shoulder seams first. I'm going to go ahead and get the sleeves made up next before I get them attached. I'll close the long seam of the sleeve first with a French seam. I'll then roll the wrists of each sleeve inward once and run a seam there, then again to create a cuff. I'll finish the cuffs by adding lace onto the outside and sewing that down by hand with the whip stitch. And lastly, I need to run a quick gathering stitch around the shoulder to finish the sleeves. Next, I'll get the collar of the blouse situated before the sleeves are attached. I'm going to sew the outer edges of the facing with a quick roll to hem. I'll then pin it to the back of the blouse and sew that along the keyhole. I'll then clip the inside of the keyhole and flip and press that flat, then top stitch it in place. Once the keyhole is in place, I can attach the collar by pinning it and sewing 1/2 onto the blouse. Then I'll pin and sew the other half with some lace sandwiched between on the top edge. Once that's sewn, I can clip the seams and flip it out. I'll make sure that the lace is showing on the outside of the collar, and then I'll press, pin it, and then sew along the bottom to close the collar. Then I'll top stitch along the top of the lace to keep that flat. And off screen, I finish this by adding a button and a buttonhole so I can close it while wearing it. Finally, I can attach the sleeves. I'll gather the sleeves into the shoulder of the blouse and sew that on with some French seams. The final thing I need to do is a rolled hem at the bottom of the blouse, and it's done! On to the skirt. I'm starting by putting my facing together first. I'll sew the front and the side seams together, leaving the back open for a zipper later. I'll then roll the seam allowance and sew it down flat. Then I'll do a rolled hem along the bottom. Next, I'll sew up the front and the side seams of the skirt using French seams here and also leaving the center back open for the zipper. With the side seams done, I'll attach the facing to the skirt at the waist. I can then install the zipper and close the back seam of the skirt by rolling it. I'll then do a top stitch along the zipper and the waist. To finish off the base of this cosplay, I'll add a ruffle from the scraps of the blouse onto the bottom of the skirt. To make the ruffle, I'm measuring and cutting about 5 inches wide strips for this, using the scraps from the blouse. I'll then sew the sides of those strips together to make a loop, and I'll sew a rolled hem along the entire length on one side. I'll sew another rolled hem onto the bottom of the skirt, and then I'll gather the entire ruffle and pin it onto the skirt and sew it down. I'm using my sewing awl here to help me situate these little gathers while I sew it down and help make it look a little neater. And with that done, so is the base of this cosplay. Well, that certainly took forever. I have some thoughts. The shirt turned out a lot better than I ever was expecting it to turn out. With as much struggling as I went through with that shirt, I am so happy with it. It fits amazingly well. When I finish the whole cosplay, I might find some way to stuff the shoulders and make those stand out a little bit more and more match the shape language in the cartoon. But for now, I'm actually really happy about it. I think everything fits really well. I'm so happy I used stretch material for that shirt instead of trying to get through with like a bed sheet or something for that. Throughout this entire making process, I wanted to give up so bad. I think I was still struggling a little bit coming back from my mental health break. Everything was so hard. These mock-ups took so long. I felt like I was trying to run through muddy water and it just wasn't happening. The end result is great. I'm so happy with the lace that I picked out. That is so cute. The shirt I can definitely see myself wearing. I think it'll be a good base layer to put under other things. And of course it's a long sleeve that doesn't have mesh sleeves, so it should be warm. Ugh, the skirt though. Woof. I like the shape of it. That's about it. So much happened with that skirt. I ended up using a curtain for that one to try and save a little bit of money. I definitely should have just bought yardage and fabric for that also. The curtain I ended up using had some bright white paint splatters on it that would not come out, and I didn't notice it until my panels were already cut and I couldn't do anything about it. What I did end up doing for that was I took some of my nail polish and I just made it black. I'm sad about that. I really should have used a different material. I think that's what all of my upset about it is coming down to, is I just should have used a different material, even a different curtain. But I was dead set on wanting a thick something to have it hang correctly, even though I had a plan to make it hang correctly no matter what. Yeah, I didn't need to do that because the curtain was thick enough and just did that for me, thankfully. I think if I'm going to wear a skirt like that, I need to remake it in a different material. And I'm just kind of sad about that. But also the skirt was probably the easiest thing to put together for this, minus the ruffle. So I might just make a quick skirt and have that later just for me that doesn't have the ruffle on it for the cosplay. As a cosplay skirt, it's gonna work fantastic. Nobody's really gonna care or notice the paint splatters now that I made them black to match. I'm gonna finish this. There will be a part 2. I am still making the belt, the staff, and the jewel, and the wig. I'm still making those. That's still gonna happen. I'm having another one of those moments where like I know it could be better and it's not, and it's bothering me. But it's good for what it is. That's a curtain. That looks really good for a curtain, but that's still a curtain. I am whelmed. That's what I am. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just whelmed. It looks good at a distance. It'll take some good pictures. It'll look like the character once I have the wig and everything, but it could be better. And that's just where I'm at with this. I'm still very excited to finish this cosplay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and leave it here and get working on part 2. So thank you so much for watching to the end. If you made it this far, comment with, is there an owl emoji? If there's an owl emoji, comment with that. Otherwise, like this video if you like it, subscribe for more, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!